This story may seem short or long, but I'm telling it as it happened, in all its details, and whenever I think about it, I am overcome by a real sense of fear and tension that is difficult to describe in words. This happened about 2 or 3 years ago. I live in a rugged area between the high Atlas Mountains in Morocco, where I was born and raised my entire life. Dense forests and towering mountains surround every direction, and the nights here are dark and unbearable except for those accustomed to living there. The air is heavy, and with every breath you smell the scent of damp earth and wild grasses, a scent unlike anything in the city, but one that carries a strange sense of loneliness and mystery, as if the forest itself is alive and silently watching you. I was with my friend Nazar, who has known me since childhood. Nazar was at my house one cold evening, and we were spending time doing the usual things, watching football matches, playing chess, and talking about everyday matters. The atmosphere was calm, but as time passed, boredom began to creep in, and the air felt stifling between the four walls of the house. Finally, we decided to take a walk along a nearby trail to smoke a joint, a small step, but it was the beginning of something we never imagined would happen. The trail wasn't long, but it wound through dense forests, with trees so tall they obscured the sky in the pitch-black darkness. The trees lined both sides of the path like silent sentinels, their leaves rustling softly in the cold breeze. The ground was damp, and when we stepped on it, a faint sound emanated, as if the forest itself was breathing beneath our feet. After about half an hour of walking, we reached almost the halfway point of the trail, where we stopped to rest. We packed our cigarettes and stood on the path, talking softly, trying to overcome the eerie silence that had begun to creep in around us. The forest was alive that night, but the sounds were strange. Insects made faint noises, and night birds whispered in the grass, but there was something else, something I'd never heard before. There was a distant, eerie sound, perhaps a whisper or a chuckle, but it evoked a strange feeling of fear. It was well past midnight, and the air was very cold. I felt a shiver running through my body that I couldn't explain. We finished smoking and continued walking, but suddenly, complete silence fell, as if the forest had stopped breathing. As we slowly began to move, we heard another voice, this time closer and clearer. It wasn't a normal human voice, it was mocking, shaky, and unclear, like the sound of an old children's toy with a poor speaker, or a distorted computer recording. I felt anxiety creeping into my chest quickly, and Nazar began to show all the signs of tension as well. He asked me in a low voice, "Did you hear that?" I tried to smile to reassure him, but I couldn't. The voice was constant, repeating itself without stopping, neither getting closer nor farther away, as if it was watching us, stalking us. We started running in the opposite direction, trying to escape, but the voice remained at the same volume, neither fading nor getting closer, just echoing in our ears, instilling fear in our hearts. With every step we took, I felt as if the forest was drawing closer, as if the trees themselves were moving to surround us. At that moment, I began to think about everything I'd read about the forest's predators and the local legends warning of mysterious creatures that appear at night. I wasn't superstitious, but a sense of real danger filled me from within, a feeling I'd never felt before. I remembered how I was younger, listening to the stories of the elderly about the frightening spirits that haunted the forests at night, and how even hearing a strange sound in the trees could herald the beginning of a tragedy. I'd always laughed at these stories, but now, amidst the darkness and the deafening silence, it all seemed so real and terrifying. As time passed, we began to feel exhausted from running. My legs ached, my breathing became ragged, and my heart began to pound violently. Nazar, who had always been so strong and courageous, now seemed to be trembling with fear. "I can't take any more," he gasped. But I felt it was impossible to stop, because if we stopped even for a second, everything might get worse. Suddenly, another sound came, a deadly scream that shook the bones as if every living thing had stopped for a moment. I knew that sound, the mountain lions, but it wasn't just any animal. The scream was vivid, vile, and so powerful that it sent birds fleeing from their nests and made my heart tremble like never before. We quickly ran toward the car, which was only 5 minutes away. Once we arrived, I felt a sense of relative relief, but fear still lingered. I looked at Nazar, his face pale, his eyes wide with terror. We both knew we had witnessed something that couldn't be easily forgotten. Even years later, this story is etched in my mind. I've only told it to 3 people, and all of them downplayed it. I've never been a believer in the paranormal, but what I encountered in that forest was something inhuman, something mysterious and profound that couldn't be explained in words. I can't remember the exact words of the sound, or if it had any meaningful meaning. All I know is that it was oscillating, trembling, and almost fading. But it left an indelible mark on me, a harsh lesson about the power of the forest and what lurks within the trees and dark undergrowth. After our escape, we sat in the car, shivering and exchanging glances, silent. We didn't talk about the sound, the scream, or the real danger I felt. I knew that just thinking about it could make me tremble again. It took long minutes before I could speak. Each word felt heavy, as if it carried the weight of fear itself. Why did this happen to us? Nazar finally asked, his voice still trembling. I tried to explain what I felt, but words were powerless to describe the strange terror. The forest seemed to be breathing, watching, waiting. The next day, I returned to the same trail and tried to look around during the day. Everything seemed normal. The trees were still, the birds were singing, the sun was spreading a warm light through the forest. But I knew that at night, there was something else, something lurking in the shadows, waiting to emerge only to those who dared to approach. Since that night, I could no longer walk in the forest after sunset, and I let Nazar go out with me after dark. Every strange sound, every movement in the forest brings back memories and fills my heart with fear. This story is true, and I've told it to a few people, and every time I tell it, I feel as if the forest itself is taking me back to that place, to the middle of the trail, where it all began. And I know I'll never forget that sound, that deafening silence, that scream that made me know there was something in this world that couldn't be explained, couldn't be faced, and couldn't be forgotten. After we reached the car, we sat there, shivering and motionless, just breathing heavily, trying to regroup. I felt like my heart wouldn't stop, and every part of my body was still on high alert. Nazar stared into the distance, wide-eyed, silent, as if any word could unleash another scream from the forest. We started driving slowly down the dirt road leading to the house. Every movement of the car, every squeal of tires on gravel, gave me the feeling that something was watching us from between the trees. We looked back repeatedly, even when there was nothing, as if the eyes of the forest were lurking in the shadows, silently watching us. The drive, which usually took 10 minutes, felt like hours. Every sound, even the distant sounds of nocturnal animals, seemed to echo the terrifying scream I'd heard in the forest. I could see Nazar shifting in the seat, biting his lips and scratching his head, every expression of tension and fear etched on his face. We finally arrived home, turned off the car, and entered without speaking. The silence was heavier than any scream, as if words couldn't cope with what we'd experienced. I sat in my room, listening to my heartbeat accelerate with every movement of air outside. Every shadow on the wall, every faint sound from the street, brought back the forest, the scream, that terrifying, oscillating sound. The next night, I woke up several times to nightmares. I saw the trees moving, coming closer to me, heard the same sounds, and saw long shadows clinging to me. Sometimes I woke up to the sound of Nazar screaming in his sleep, as if we were still in the forest. The nightmares didn't leave us for weeks, even a whole month, until sleep became a heavy burden, and deep sleep was impossible. Nazar felt the same. We communicated through letters at night, writing to each other about our nightmares, the sounds of the forest we sometimes heard in our dreams, and the feeling of fear that wouldn't go away. We avoided going out at night, and any simple noise outside made us shiver. Even daytime was no longer comfortable, as if the experience of the night had left a deep mark on our nerves. As the weeks passed, we began to notice changes in our daily lives. We no longer enjoyed peace and no longer felt safe anywhere. Every time I heard a faint sound from the neighborhood, even the movement of cars in the distance, it felt like the cry of the forest. Nazar began to avoid the forest altogether, and whenever I mentioned what had happened to him, he would look at me with wide eyes, as if the past still haunted him. Even returning to the same path during the day didn't relieve the dread. The trees were as tall as ever, the shadows unwavering, but I knew the night held secrets that couldn't be easily confronted. I felt both curious and scared, as if the forest was challenging our courage, waiting for us to return to witness more. Over time, we learned to live with this fear, but its effect never went away. We now tell our story with caution, not wanting anyone to diminish its significance, because anyone who has experienced that terror knows it is real, more real than anything else you can see or hear. What this experience left in me was not just fear, but a profound lesson about the power of nature and the unknown that can lurk in the shadows. The forest is not just trees and earth, but a living being, watching, listening, and remembering every step we take. Every laugh, every whisper, every sound in the night could be a sign of something bigger, something we don't yet understand. Even now, whenever the sun sets, I find myself reliving that night, the sounds of the forest, the deadly scream, and the terror of escape. Everything is forever etched in my mind. as if the forest itself wove a part of my life, a part of my fear, a part of my awareness of the world we only see in the dark. This story, despite the passing years, lives on. She taught us that there are things in this world greater than our ability to understand, greater than our courage to face them, and that every frightening experience can change you forever. I may never return to the forest again, but the memory of her, that scream, that moment when we realized we were facing something inhuman, will always be with me, etched in my memory and in every faint fear that visits my heart at night. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to support and subscribe to the channel.